Välkomna till ABG Sundal Collier Investor Days. Mitt namn är Viktor Sundberg och jag jobbar som aktieanalytiker här på ABG. Nu ska jag vilja lämna ordet över till Carl Tobiasson som kommer presentera bolaget. Ja.
Tack så mycket. Jag tänkte köra på engelska. Jag hoppas att det är okej med alla. Och ni som inte vill lyssna på engelska, ni får chansen att lämna nu. So good morning everyone. My name is Carl Tobiasson. I'm CEO of MedCap and I've been so for quite a long time. So I joined the company as an owner back in 2006 and bought my first shares in the summer of 2006, and eventually I entered into the board in 2007, and since 2008, I think it was in June, I became the CEO of the company. So I'll present a bit about MedCap and a bit about what we're doing now, and then we'll leave some room for questions towards the end. So MedCap is a decentralized conglomerate, and our idea is basically to find good companies in the Nordics or Northern Europe. So we have started venturing into Germany as well, and a bit in Holland and the UK. And what we try to look for is companies that have been well run, often by entrepreneurs, but they have, for some reason, they are profitable. They have built a good business. They have good customers that pay the bills, and everything is working. But for some reason, they haven't taken the next step in their development, and that's where we come in. That's where we see potential and opportunity. And as we describe this, that our goal is to create value for our customers and for our shareholders by improving the quality of life within the life science industry. And we take this part about the customer and the customer needs and their what they're looking for very seriously. So every start when we meet a new company, we get involved in the question, what kind of value do you bring to the customers and what kind of value do you bring to the market? And that's a very important question for us to start with. And all the companies that we are engaged with are very focused on this value proposition. And as you see on this slide, there are a number of different customers in this slide. Not only the patients or the users of the products, but we also, of course, focus on what kind of health economics our companies or a potential new company bring to the customer. Because we think that long term, to be a successful and profitable medtech or pharma company, you need to have a clear view on what you bring, what kind of value you bring to society. Typically, the customer, the paying customer in most of our companies are a public healthcare system. And public healthcare systems are under pressure, so they need to find value and they need to show that they bring value. And that's where we fit in. Our products brings value, brings health economics. So we look at the customer from this different perspectives. So the patient, obviously an important customer to bring value to. The healthcare system, obviously a very important customer to bring value to. And also the people within the system that use our products. You won't be successful in this industry unless the people using the products actually enjoys using them and feel that they bring value to their work situation. So currently, as I said, we are a decentralized conglomerate. Our aim is to create value in the businesses we get engaged with. We are currently organized in two different segments, one medtech segment and one specialty pharma segment. Turnover is roughly 700 million Swedish krona, which is just under 70 million euros. Roughly 250 employees in the group as a whole, and we are listed on small cap since was it February 2016, I think. And before that, we were listed on First North. If you look at the map here over Europe, the red spots on the map are the countries where we are currently involved with our own daughter companies or our own sales organizations. So these markets is what we would call home markets. The more, let's say, black, slightly black grayish parts are markets where we have sales that is a bit larger and of importance for us. So we have expanded into other parts of Europe, but they are not our home markets currently. We don't have our own sales organizations in those markets. Besides these, we sell in roughly 50, 60 geographies over the world. So it's not only Europe. And we also have a substantial business in the US and in Australia in our assistive aid company, Abilia. But as you can see on this one, we are still a very Nordic-centric company. So we have 57% of our revenues from Sweden and 27% from the rest of the Nordics. So we're still very, very focused on the Nordic region. And most of our companies and most of our investments have been done here and then expanded out to other parts of Europe. In terms of the two largest markets for us are Sweden and Norway, and that's very much connected to our assistive aid company Abilia, which is a substantial market in Norway. Besides Sweden and the rest of the Nordics, we also have about 15% of our business in Europe, and then a small percentage outside of Europe, just 1%. On the other circle here, you can see that we are engaged in these two areas, medtech area and specialty pharma area, and the medtech business is currently the biggest one. It represents just under 60% of our business, and 40% is specialty pharma. And the reason for this is that we have done more acquisitions into the medtech space, so that has grown faster through acquisitions. The specialty pharma space has been more of an organic growth story for us. So just a quick update on where we stand currently. We are increasing our profits and sales, and during this period, this is 2018 compared to 2019, rolling 12 months. So this would be the end of September 2019. We have grown roughly 5% and about 30% in terms of profits. And the growth has come mostly from our medtech business. This is all organic growth, so there hasn't been any major additives through acquisitions in this particular period. And as you can see, we have increased our profit significantly in the medtech space, and that contributes the most to our current profitability in the group. The pharma space has been more of a challenging situation, but we're now turning a corner, and it's been made mainly due to weak volumes in one of our pharma businesses where we do contract manufacturing for other companies. But when we talk about MedCap, we shouldn't look at single quarters or single years. It's more of a long-term situation that we're aiming for. So we do investments when we acquire a company to grow the company and to develop the market position and sometimes the product portfolio. And since we do investments and we take on more costs in some cases, over a long period of time, hopefully we see some return on those investments. But it's a small company still, so it can be bumpy between quarters. But if you look at the long-term trend, and this is about 10 years back roughly, you can see that we have grown sales with roughly 14% a year, of which half is organic and half is acquisitions. And we have grown our EBITDA with just under 30% a year. So as you can see, these investments that we made in 2014 and 15 has paid off through the later years here. Just a quick note on what type of companies we are currently engaged in. So what we do, we try to find good Nordic or Northern European companies and develop them. And with that comes a number of tools to develop companies. One tool is add-on acquisitions. And we do add-on acquisitions basically all the time. And when we do those, we do them into these 4 companies that we are currently engaged with. So we have Abilia, which is technical aids, very Nordic-centric company currently, but are expanding into Europe, both through organic growth and through acquisitions. So Abilia has made acquisitions in the UK and additional product acquisitions over the years, which has brought some additional markets as well. Then we have Cardiolex, which is an ECG company. And they are a total solution provider within the ECG. So they not only provide the hardware, but also the software solutions. And that's been the key for Cardiolex historically, that they have had very competitive software solutions. So Cardiolex is one of those companies that are currently growing a lot with acquisitions. They have made 2 acquisitions in Germany the past 2 years. And there is a lot of room to grow for a company like Cardiolex, with both organically and with additional acquisitions. And the third company within the medtech space is a company called Impact. They are involved in probiotics and do primary and secondary packaging for probiotic product owners. They're a very niche company. So what they bring to the customer is a fully integrated solution on the packaging side. So when the customer wants to introduce a new product to the market, they make sure that they meet all the deadlines and set the first production batches and start off and then enter into serial production of these probiotics. Then on the other end, on the other side, we have our specialty pharma business, which is organized in one company called Unimedic. Have a number of different businesses within that company, but everything we do currently within pharma is within Unimedic. So I talked a bit about this, what we're looking for and what we try to find. But what's important for us is that we try to find companies that are developable, that we can develop. So we don't get engaged and acquire companies just to own them or just to hold them. We acquire companies that we see a potential for development. This typically means that they have some kind of product base which can be internationalized. That's a typical factor for us. The companies we look for are quite small, so we say the investment size is between 50 and 500 million Swedish krona. Typically, we are on the lower end of that range. So the typical company that would come to us would be within, let's say, 50 to 100 million. And we only do majority. Typically, we own 100% of the companies we own. In some cases, we leave a few percentage points for could be the entrepreneur or could be a CEO that we think is important to have on the journey with us. We have an unlimited holding period, which means that we only sell if there is a favorable situation for us. So creating value. So what we do for value creation, this is similar to a lot of other companies, I guess, but what's most important for us is to maintain this entrepreneurial spirit in the companies that we acquire. Typically, the company has been run by an entrepreneur and his family. Decisions are made around the kitchen table, which there are some pros and some cons with that. But we find that the small companies with entrepreneurial spirit, it is important to maintain that because it gives speed and execution. We also use a lot of different levers to accelerate growth and accelerate profitability in the companies that we are engaged with. And I think the two most important part for us to get engaged with is how do we grow the company organically and how do we find add-on acquisitions to this company that we are engaged with. We have a broad base of people that we can get engaged. A lot of broad network with special knowledge or people that sits with different skill sets that we can bring to our companies, and they can help them for a number of months, and then we can bring them to another company to perform the similar exercise. This is very much towards the operational improvement of our daughter companies. So just a short on this one. So as you can see here, what we want to show you here is basically that a lot of the companies or the acquisitions that we have made have been add-on acquisitions, and we think that that's a very important part of the value creation that we bring to what we're doing here. Is a small company growing it by adding acquisitions, provides scales, gives new markets, gives new products. These are our financial targets. So as I said in the beginning, we are currently just over 700 million in turnover, and our goal is to grow this to twice the size, 1.5 billion, within 3 to 4 years. We will do this by maintaining a profitability and a growth in profits of 15% annual growth. And we will not go over the 3 times net debt EBITDA level in form of indebtedness. And as you can see, you can think that this annual growth target of 15% is quite defensive when you have grown just under 30% in the past. But there is a scale there, so it's more challenging nowadays to grow 30% EBITDA a year than it was when I started in 2006. Management team. So as I said, I've been with the company for a long time. We are currently in a phase where we have done some changes. So we currently have an interim CFO, but we just announced a permanent solution that will join us this spring. We just added a new member to the management team, Johan Folkunger. He comes from a background in Philips, has been the CEO of Swedish Philips, and he will be the senior vice president of the MedTech area and take care of that and develop that for us. And Thomas has been with us for soon, I think, 4 years, and he's mostly engaged in the acquisition processes, and he has a banking background. Last slide, just a quick note on the owners. So there are 3 principal owners in the company that have been with the company for quite some time. So it's myself and Bengt Gylander, who is an entrepreneur within the life science industry. He and I sort of started this journey together back in 2006, 2007. So he's been with the company for 12, 13 years, something like that. And then after a few years, I think back in 2012 or something, Bure, which is a Swedish investment company, joined. And Bengt and Bure are now the principal owners, and myself is the 3rd largest owner. The market cap is around 1.8 billion currently. And as you see, we've been listed on small cap since February 2016. Share price development, the gray line is the index. Nordic Small Cap Index. That's about it. Any questions?
Thank you, Carl, for your presentation. So one question, your sale came in a bit weaker in Q3, and that was due to some labeling issues in your specialty pharma division. Could you perhaps elaborate a bit more on that, and if that will affect the Q4 numbers, for example?
Yes. So what we communicated in Q3 was that we had a problem during the quarter with one of our labeling machines. So there's been a change in the regulatory situation with something called serialization, which means that each individual pharma package needs to be individualized. And to be able to do this, we have acquired new machines, new labeling machines, which label these packages on an individual basis. And for some reason, these machines were damaged in transports to our factory. And we started producing with them back in February, so this was something that we couldn't really foresee, but basically we had a machine failure during Q3. We got them up and running again in Q3, but towards the later end. So we couldn't sort of win back the production we lost during the quarter. But they are up and running, and hopefully we can win back that in the coming quarters.
Thank you. And Cardiolex made an acquisition of a MedTech in Germany.
Yeah.
Could you perhaps talk a bit more about that, and how you think that Cardiolex will grow internationally with that acquisition?
Yeah. So this acquisition is a situation where we have been in contact with the company for a long, long time. So they are basically one of our competitors, but also a small company like Cardiolex. Their turnover of roughly 4.5 million euros. And the situation is that we have a long-term plan of growing Cardiolex into other parts of Europe, not only the Nordics and not only UK, but also into Germany. And our basic idea was that we needed to acquire a platform in Germany to be able to grow it. And this was one of the targets that we were in discussions with. What's interesting about Cardiolex and MedTech is that they are very complementary in terms of product portfolio. So MedTech has been very focused on the hardware side, which is natural given that the German market is more hardware focused currently. And Cardiolex has been successful mostly due to their strong software side and database side. So what we try to achieve now is with MedTech and bringing in Cardiolex offering towards the software side, we can enter into new parts of the German market with MedTech. And we think that we have a very strong value proposition there when we combine these two offerings.
And just a quick question before we have to wrap up. How do you plan to finance the acquisitions going forward in the company?
So we have a financing solution with a bank, which basically runs on a covenant. So whenever we find a new acquisition, we use this solution to acquire the company. And we currently have no other plans, but using that solution that we have basically. And that's the way we financed a MedTech acquisition as well.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Just comment on your. It was announced yesterday evening, quite a large sale of shares from you.
Yeah. So I sold about 1/6 of my shareholdings due to private reason. I'm buying something that is not another share. And as I said in the start, I've been with the company for a long time, so I acquired my first shares in 2006. So it's not really, it's not due to the company itself. It's something else I'm doing privately.
Yeah. Sorry, I think we have to wrap up. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, thanks a lot.